Hello and welcome to Network. My name is Sphumelele Zondi with your technology and social media news. If you want to be a part of this technology conversation, you can find us on SABC Network. That's on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. It's newsnetwork at sabc.co.za on email. You can also use the hashtag SABC Network. Here's what's coming up in the program. A world first, South Africa now has medicine dispensing ATMs. These have started rolling out in townships. For music lovers, a global music streaming service, Spotify, is now in South Africa. And Twitter is now cleaning out. They've started getting rid of some automated accounts. Seth Mbele from Digital Voodoo is here to discuss that with us. Hello, Seth.
Hey, how are you, Spumele?
I'm all right.
Good.
Now, how common are these automated Twitter accounts?
They actually account for about a quarter of the traffic of Twitter.
All right. We'll have a deeper discussion about that later in the program. But first, your technology and social media news. Now, patients with chronic illnesses in Johannesburg will no longer have to stand in long queues to get their medication. The Gauteng Health Department launched Africa's first ATM pharmacy.
Technological innovations like artificial intelligence are set to change the way business is conducted in the pharmaceutical industry.
The expansion in the last mile technology that we are demonstrating here with the Righty Pharmacy launch today really demonstrates a shift into the 21st century for the pharmacy dispensing. So there are really three big branches. There are the manufacturers, there are the distributors. We focused on the last mile dispensing. How are we going to actually efficiently dispense to the patient?
This week, Gauteng Health Department, in partnership with Right to Care, launched its first set of ATM-like pharmacy dispensing machines in Alexandra Township for patients on chronic medication.
We've partnered with the Department of Health to shift dispensing into shopping centres through automated facilities that you have seen here today, that have been launched today, such that they can step up to an ATM with a card, enter a PIN number, and receive their correct month dispensing.
The ATMs are aimed at chronic patients who go to primary health care clinics for their medications and to cut waiting times and long queues at hospitals and clinics.
It would also improve quality. Patients don't wait for a long time. It improves patients' experience. But because patients are not inconvenienced, they don't spend a lot of hours waiting for medication.
The robot unit works like a money ATM with Skype audio-visual interaction between patients and pharmacist. The patient scans their barcoded ID book followed by their secret PIN number and the medication will be dispensed.
Through a Skype technology, the pharmacist assesses whether the patient has side effects. If no side effects, then dispensing can happen.
So far, patients have responded positively to the introduction of this convenient technology as they feel it will help shorten the time they spend at clinics and hospitals.
They make the things easier for us. So I think everybody who wasn't taking their medication would be happy to hear that there is a pharmacy like this.
The decision to officially launch the ATMs follows successful trials of the new technology system at the Thembaletu Clinic based at the Charlotte Maxeke Hospital in Johannesburg.
We'll be expanding next to Soweto, then to Diepsloot, and then we will make it the way we do business in all our municipalities.
You can expect more to roll out as time goes by.
Well, they say that's a world first and it's a South African innovation. Now, international music streaming service Spotify has finally launched in South Africa. The service was initially launched in 2008 in Sweden and spread rapidly around the world, gaining over 159 million users. We attended the launch event in Johannesburg to find out why the company took so long.
Shekinah's beautiful melodies can now be found on Spotify, a global online music service that recently launched in South Africa. When asked to share their thoughts on this new service, some locals had this to say.
Spotify is gonna change the game for real, because I feel that it's a new venture for artists and it's a new platform.
I think I'm really excited for it. Just having used Apple the whole time as sort of like the priority streaming service. It's cool to check out something that's, what I've heard is more curated, like for people, recommendations and things like that. So I'm excited for it.
I think Spotify is actually a dope platform for artists because it's like Twitter, you know, they have more control over their own work. So I think that's really dope for artists to have that control.
Siyaslika Mitana, a musician himself, feels that the online streaming service will offer more music streaming and downloading options to locals, which he says is necessary.
South Africans deserve options, you know, so they're an option. And we are worthy of options also. So less them, more us. Let's see, you know, there's options, let's choose. You mentioned all the other streaming platforms who we roll with. So I think, you know, for the music-loving consumer, they now have more options. I think it's a plus for them.
Initially launched in Sweden in 2008, Spotify boasts over 159 million active users globally. The company says that they had to follow due processes before they could enter the South African market.
We want to get it right if we launch a market, so the content needs to be there. It's our legal license, so we are a legal service, it's not piracy. So we license all the tracks that we have, and then we also want to get the local catalog right. So we want to have the local playlists, we want to have local editors, and really individualize on each market so that it feels like an African service. So that's why it took a bit time to really set all of this up. And then also the market, of course, needs to be right in terms of network coverage, in terms of like having mobile broadband available widely. So these are all reasons why we're live now.
Like other music streaming services such as Apple iTunes and Deezer, Spotify requires internet connectivity for streaming, something that is still financially burdening for most South Africans.
What I can tell you is that on the free service and generally for South Africa, we have reduced the bandwidth per song to 24 kilobit per second. It's still a good quality to listen to, but it only consumes about 10 megabytes per hour, which is really the lowest of all music services in Africa when it comes to data consumption. Then we have the premium service where you can also download all the tracks that you like, so you can use your home Wi-Fi and then download all the tracks on the go. And then you don't have a data issue at all because you have everything in your own home Wi-Fi. And so I think it's a good combination so that people can, if they want to, use something on the go, even without consuming a lot of data. But if they have a premium subscription, they can have everything on the go. They have a huge music library in their pocket all the time.
The music streaming service not only launched in South Africa on March 13th, but also made its debut in Israel, Romania, and Vietnam. Users can download Spotify on Android, iOS, and Microsoft operating systems. Subscribers can listen for free or alternatively upgrade to the premium option for about 60 Rand per month.
The International Energy Agency says only less than 40% of Africans are connected to national electricity grids. This is now seen as an area of opportunity by international solar power companies. The next story takes us to Abidjan in Ivory Coast. The suburb of Yobougon in Ivory Coast's economic capital, Abidjan, may not be connected to the country's power grid, but it's perfectly located for solar power entrepreneurs. Buoyed by success in East Africa, off-grid solar power startups are pouring into West Africa. They offer pay-as-you-go kits in a race to claim tens of millions of customers who lack reliable access to electricity. Jean-Noel Kouame and his family are amongst the first beneficiaries of solar power in Ivory Coast, provided by a Dutch off-grid developer, Lumos Global. With his solar panel kit, Kouame says he now has indoor lighting and can also use an electric fan and a television.
Every day I see new people coming to ask me how I have electricity and how does it work. I told them how, and word has spread around. That's how my neighbor went to buy one for himself as well.
Lumos Global's kits, which cost about 7,000 Rand, include a solar panel linked to a battery that supports power sockets, a mobile phone adapter, and LED light bulbs. Kwame is now renting his with a possibility of owning it later. A digital counter on the yellow battery pack tells him when he needs to top up using his mobile phone. If he doesn't pay, the kit, which also houses a global positioning system, shuts down. Esther, Kwame's wife, also loves it.
We have electricity all the time now, and I can help my child with homework. Today, my son is 12th in his class, whereas before, because there was no electricity, he could not study.
According to the International Energy Agency, some 1.2 billion people around the world have no access to a power grid. IEA figures show that only less than 40% of African households are connected to electricity grids. What African governments have failed to do is now seen as an opportunity by foreign electricity entrepreneurs who want to expand into Africa. It is SABC Network on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. News Network at sabc.co.za on email. Now, after the break, we chat about automated Twitter accounts with Seth Mbele from Digital Voodoo. Stay with us.
Corruption both in the public and the private sectors needs to be combated.
Where there are clear cases of wrong that has been done, that must commence immediately.
Something is being done about corruption in our country.
Currency, even although it strengthened dramatically after the ANC's recent elective conference, could conceivably go stronger yet.
He had a soul that would not be for sale.
Stay tuned to Your World for your final news roundup, Monday to Sunday at 21:30.
It is the SABC Network on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. News Network at sabc.co.za and email. Thank you very much for staying with the program. Now, for years, people could buy tweeting bots as their followers. Sometimes you'd find that the accounts you follow are automated computers that tweet the same thing and retweet each other. We went to the streets to find out if people mind automated bots on social media.
Those accounts are bad. They give us something that we don't want because we may ask something and they don't give us accurate something because they're automated.
I feel it's okay because, I mean, there are bad days where you feel like expressing yourself to other people, you know, and having your friends there. Some friends judge you, so I feel like a computer will actually listen and give you advice.
I should think to myself that it's not fine because for me, I think it's safe personally because with yourself, but with other computers, people can hack it.
It's a bad thing because you can't just trust computers.
I haven't heard anything of that, so I'm not quite sure. You know, I don't have any clue about it.
Now Twitter says it's cleaning up. They've started deleting some accounts that are operated by bots. This has led to them deleting some accounts with more than 2 million followers as well. Joining me to talk about this is Seth Mbele from Digital Voodoo. Hello, Seth, and thank you very much for being a part of our network.
Pleasure.
Now, what's the purpose of these robots?
So Twitter robots, or bots for short, are basically, they do form, the reason why they're still legal, fairly legal with Twitter, is that they do form a useful function. So they're used for automated support requests. They are used for distributing information during a disaster, etc., etc. But you also have a situation where there are bots that are automated, but that are pursuing a specific ulterior agenda.
So there is some positive.
There's definitely some positive, but the negative has overtaken the positive over time.
The negative that has taken the positive, overtaken the positive, what is it?
So for an example, there was a huge scandal with the 2016 USA elections, where it was alleged and proven that there were a lot of Twitter bots that were tweeting pro-Trump messages, which were emanating out of Russia. Now, the issue with that is that you've got this army of automated bots, which are essentially influencing the public. So people think that Trump is getting a lot of support, whereas in fact he's not getting as much, and that tends to influence the outcome of the ballots.
But obviously there is always a person behind the accounts. As much as the messages are automated, as much as they retweet each other, there's an individual behind all of that.
Sure, there is an individual, but the thing that makes it sort of go viral is the fact that there's also an algorithm behind it. So there will be a bot that is pretending to be Spumelele, that is tweeting things that are anti-SABC, and all of a sudden you've got 100 retweets and it becomes somewhat of a trend and you find yourself in trouble. So that's pretty much how it works.
And are people generally aware that there are such accounts?
I think people are starting to be more aware, but generally they are not. You know, especially the males. They'll get a follow from what looks like an attractive female in a bikini, and they'll follow back, and next thing they're getting a direct message, which is invariably either linking them to a porn site or to some other kind of phishing site.
So the consequences can be quite huge.
The consequences can be massive, yeah.
There are also some accounts with millions of followers that Twitter has decided to delete as well. What's the story behind those ones?
So the story behind those ones is that there was one particular culprit, which was called Devumi, a company called Devumi. And what Devumi was doing is that it was selling accounts and influence to people that wanted to buy. So there were sort of celebrities and their marketing and PR agencies were buying followership. So you would have, for example, 100,000 followers and your PR would go and buy another 150, so you look more influential or more authentic, but it was actually not true influence or true followers.
When you talk about true influence and true followers, because you do get people with millions of followers, and what's the difference there? What's true and what's fake influence?
So the primary difference here would be that if you have organic followers, they would usually be active. So real people that are active, that are tweeting about sports and entertainment and politics and all sorts of things, basically tweeting about life. But if your followership is predominantly these bots, then they are tweeting about other things, if at all. Which means that, for example, if a company says they want to endorse a brand through you and use you as an influencer, and you are tweeting certain messages, you're probably only tweeting to a very small real population that is going to go out there and actually act on that message, buy a product or do whatever it is that the call to action is.
Now that touches on issues of internet governance, because there are a lot of groups that say leave the internet alone, and now Twitter is saying, well, we'll do our own cleanup processes, which means they are now infiltrating that space and taking action and governing the internet.
I think they're governing their platform, which is fine and well, because the more, I mean, at the moment, you've got 15% of Twitter accounts are bots, but they account for 24% of the conversations. That is problematic. So that means that 24% of the conversations happening on the platform aren't actually real conversations, whether it's person to person or whatever, never mind what the message is. So from a platform integrity perspective, they do need to take some steps to kind of curate who is on the platform.
And just quickly, last one, Twitter has also started unverifying certain accounts. What's the story there? Are we suddenly all going to find ourselves unverified?
So, I mean, the verification process wasn't very clear to start off with. there's always been the assumption that when Twitter verifies an account, it is in a way endorsing that account. So what happened late last year is that there was a white supremacist in the USA who got verified by Twitter, and there was huge uproar because people perceived that as Twitter kind of endorsing this white supremacist leader. But their verification process and policy until that point was basically saying they will verify any account that is deemed to be of public interest, and that's politics, entertainment, sports, etc., etc. Now, the debate is whether a guy who has politics that we don't like is a public figure or not, and worthy of verification or not.
Or what if people are searching for that guy a lot?
Well, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, if you can make an example with South Africa, let's say Steve Hofmeyr, we may not like him, but he does have a following and his message resonates with a certain segment of the population. So whether he must be verified or not then becomes less a question of policy and more a question of preference.
All right, sure. Thank you very much for joining us, Seth Mbele.
Pleasure.
Seth Mbele is from Digital Voodoo. Now, this week we caught up with Freshly Ground's Zolani Mahola, and she told us what her favorite piece of technology is.
Recognize what time that it is. Yes, I know what it is. Though they said you had to fake it. Hi guys, I'm Zolani Mahola. This is my favorite technological invention, the cellular device, because now we can do so much on it. I mean, don't you just love your cell phone? Are you not just completely in love with it? I just sleep with it under my bed, get the radiation. I don't mind because it's so cool. Black girls be like, oh, we just want to rock.
SABC is the official broadcaster of the 2018 FIFA World Cup Russia.
It is SABC Network on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Welcome back. Now, new technology voting machines get off to a rocky start in the Democratic Republic of Congo, and French Finance Minister plans on taking Google and Apple to court. These are some of the stories that made tech headlines in the last week.
Much hope in the Democratic Republic of Congo rests on these new voting machines. But these tablet-style voting machines, imported from South Korea, got off to a rocky start. One machine reportedly breaking down when it was demonstrated to a parliamentary commission.
The use of voting machines is cheating. It's chaos, and the future will prove us right.
Despite this, the DRC's election commission says voting won't go ahead without them. And off we go to the USA. Students across the United States took to social media to share their school walkouts in demand for gun action on Wednesday. The hashtag Enough National School Walkout was intended to pressure federal and state lawmakers to tighten laws on gun ownership despite opposition by the National Rifle Association, the powerful gun rights advocacy group. In France, the country will take Google and Apple to court over contractual terms imposed by the tech giants on startups and developers. Finance Minister Bruno Le Maire said on Wednesday.
I take it that when developers want to develop their applications to sell to Google or Apple, they have tariffs imposed on them. Google and Apple recover the data and can unilaterally modify contractual terms with the developers. All of this is unacceptable. This is not the economy we want. I want an economy founded on fairness. Justice.
Le Maire also said he expected the European Union to close tax loopholes that benefit Google, Apple, Facebook, and Amazon by the start of 2019. Brussels is currently examining measures to improve the taxation of overseas tech giants' online business in European markets. Heading to Korea. Singapore-based chipmaker Broadcom announced on Wednesday that it has withdrawn and terminated its offer to acquire its US rival Qualcomm, officially ending a 4-month battle to strike a deal that would otherwise have become the biggest ever technology takeover. Broadcom's decision to drop the proposed $117 billion bid came to 2 days after U.S. President Donald Trump blocked the attempt, citing national security concerns. The company has also withdrawn its slate of independent directors nominees for Qualcomm's annual shareholder meeting. However, it will continue with plans to move its headquarters to the United States.
Very Cool has started rolling out its smartphones in various parts of Africa. They say they are now sold out in Namibia. They also want to move their manufacturing from China to South Africa.
Very Cool is an originally international brand starting off by Joseph Ram in the United States. And just so happened that Joseph Ram also gave us the opportunity to bring the brand locally and also localize it somewhat. What we did is that we came up with an affordable version of smartphones as opposed to the premium brands that most people are used to, and make sure that they've got the same quality in terms of having the same kind of apps and operating systems that you'd expect in a premium smartphones. Our smartphones are all Android based, currently moving on Android 7, which is Walkout, which is the latest version, starting in October 2017. And more than anything else, we also make certain that the quality is as good as the premium brands, because fortunately all our brands all our models are listed on the GSM Arena, so you can be able to actually independently verify the quality of our handsets globally. The first thing we notice when we give people phones is that they look for the camera icon and then actually click on it and look at the selfie camera, which is the front-facing camera. And then once they're actually happy with it, then they're more than willing to engage in other segments of the phone. Looking at 5-megapixel front-facing camera, and then as you go on, it goes up to 8 megapixels, which is quite our flagship phone, which is the Rocket. Has got 8 megapixel cameras front-facing and 13 actually back-facing.
This week, our poll is asking you about the new medicine dispensing ATMs that we told you about in the beginning of the program. Now, the majority of respondents say they are brilliant, and that word is brilliant on your screen and not the brilliant that's written there. That figure is at 52%. 21% say no, that number is in last place. In second place is 27%, who are saying that they want to know a bit more about these ATMs. And that's all we have for you. You can find us on SABC Network on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Use network at sabc.co.za and email. We leave you with visuals of the world's first public Bitcoin monument unveiled in Kranj in Slovenia. From me and the rest of the network team, have a good one. Bye-bye.
Very good morning to you, and thank you so much indeed for choosing Morning Live.
But I want to know that basic thing.
Chris Alder Lewis, SABC News.